want to talk about that?
Sure. We met, Jay Thurstone is out sick, otherwise would have been there as a member of the Committee on Trustees. This was Tony, Amy, myself, and Dave coming in about halfway through. We met with Dave Wellborn, who is a principal. I don't know if he's the president of
the executive.
Yeah.
Okay.
He called himself the president.
Yeah, of the Essex County Community Foundation. Tony and I reached out to them through a friend who works there named Julie Bishop, in anticipation of adding to the capacity of the board, meaning not just additional members, but additional members with certain skills, with some development work, meaning how do we draw a balance between oversight and management board leadership. We talked a little bit about committee structure and how we might add people there to this effort without making them formal board members. We talked about the role of parents and some of the pitfalls of that, some of the promise that comes with that. We talked about different ways of adding parent involvement to the board. We talked about overlapping terms. We talked about covering most of it. And we came to the conclusion that really the best thing for us to do at this point would be to add, to ask board members to consider who they might like for the Committee on Trustees to consider adding or talking to, either as a committee member, depending on what those committees are, or as a board member. Knowing that it's a huge commitment of time, depending on what the capacity is we're talking about, but also we need to add, and we're eager to add. We were also talking about how we're in a different place today than we were even, I thought it was 2 weeks ago, but if it's 4 weeks ago, it's even more different. So that board members prospective board members that we talked to over the last few months, who in the end would have joined the board, but they didn't know if there was going to be a board for a school. Now there's both. So I guess that's a long way of saying we should each consider, and probably by Friday, get to Tony, acting as the clerk for the Committee on Trustees, suggestions for prospective board members, just generally, and who are we looking for generally. We talked a little bit, and I know this is a kind of a truncated process because we would otherwise be considering what the critical factors for success are for this school, and then adding in a certain way depending on what those factors are. We talked about the arts. We talked about issues of compliance. And we talked about the educational program and methods of measuring the educational program and how best to ensure the success of the school, if those are really the three areas that we have to concern ourselves with.
Public relations or something.
Yeah, and with all due respect to our friends from, what is it, the fourth estate?
Fourth estate.
I'm not. Absolutely. We should add people who are, we should add prospects who may be able to help us in that regard.
I think, Amy, you had suggested that it was about encouraging board members to send in both their sense of what the strengths of the current board were or are, and how that informs our thinking about what the others might be, which is a great way to sort of frame it.
Well, and weaknesses.
So being the teacher that I am, the homework assignment for the board is to, by Friday, get to Tony, strengths, 3 strengths that you see on the board, 3 weaknesses, and in looking at the list of weaknesses that you come up with, what those are qualities that are out there that you might think would add to the board.
And even specifically prospects that can come to
Very
mind.
much so.
And maybe at the next board meeting, we can have talked about this exercise before, which is something I've done with my own shop, which is every once in a while, especially with an early stage or a growing enterprise, a startup, to consider the different reasons that we're going to fail and be uninhibited about that and address them. And then talk about the critical factors for success. What is it that we need to have or need to develop in order to succeed? What are those things? And then how are we going to go get them? It becomes a pretty straightforward exercise. I mean, if we were having this conversation a month ago, it'd be a different conversation than the one we have now. That's how quickly things can change. That's the fun of this, is it gets to move, and the issues will change. And it will look dire again in a few months, but for different reasons.
What is our relationship with Rick? So that is financial oversight one of the categories we should be considering? How long does Rick last as a, is he paid, is he pro bono?
He's
he'll last
hired
as
by
long
the
as he-
board.
Gotcha, okay.
He's
I
hired
thought
by
he
the
was.
board, but yes,
But at
we
some point,
need
yeah.
finance audit, yes.
Yeah, we still need a committee, a
Yes.
finance committee.
One might think if there was a person who had a firecracker tied to their tail in the grant writing area to scare up grants that we never even knew existed,
Yeah.
one might think that's going to be more profitable than fundraising in a dry desert
Right.
climate, you know.
All those.
Not that I know of anybody that's like that.
But Gordo, to
That
those,
does.
but to those points,
Yeah.
that's exactly what.
What you mean.
Yeah,
Yeah, send those
exactly.
out.
Feel free to use mine.
Well, you're gonna email them.
Yes, I will.
And I will, I know minutes will go to Jay, but I'll highlight the homework.
Yeah, I know, yeah.
Highlight it when you send it. So he knows there's homework to do.
But I think that's the ground we covered with Dave Oldmore. It was a useful, I think it was a useful conversation. And there's, I think, you know, the ECCF this is what they do.
And because I'm stupid, he has a giant, not giant, but he has a universe of people who he might recommend to us.
He could.
That's right.
He could.
You weren't talking to him about joining, you were talking about him searching his.
Well, and also, and he knows something about board development and capacity and training and because that's
Because they
essentially what
understand
do.
it, they're, you
They
know, what
help.
they do is help nonprofits, and board development is a
Gotcha.
huge piece of what they do.
Yeah.
So it was very helpful to talk to him, and he's available to us, which is fantastic.
I mean, I think the other thing to think about is what are the committees of the board? There's some standard ones, but there's maybe some not so standard ones. It turns out that we've got this fantastic facility that we won't use 24 hours a day. Okay, so is there more rent that can be derived? Is there revenue? Is there, smiling broadly, is there, I mean, and
You
can we
mean
use it?
like to rent to a basketball league or something
Keep it
innocent
on.
like
Yeah.
that? Okay.
Oh, yeah. Yeah.
So we're allowed to do that?
I think we're encouraged to do that.
Okay.
That's good for everybody, and it's good for the community. And is there a committee that is tasked with other things? Think on it.
A late night deli?
That one probably can't do.
Religious thing, you mean?
So,
Anyone have any questions for any of us that went to the meeting, which would just be you and Karen and Gordon, actually, so since we're there. Okay. Curriculum update?
Curriculum update, we have Gary Davis coming into work with the faculty next Wednesday and following Wednesday on multi-age teaching environment. And then Will Gardner will be coming back to work with the faculty on their curriculum mapping and in particularly integration with state and national standards, which is a project, as you know, that's ongoing. throughout every year, but particularly in this first year, they started over the summer and are going to continue with that work. And then we'll also be working with the faculty on assessment within this particular environment as it relates to the particular mission of the school and its charter. It's quite specific if you can go back and look at the charter in terms of how we might assess students and what was important to us in that. So that's sort of what's happening there. And on the 28th, which is a week from Thursday, is curriculum night at the school. So the parents will all be getting an invitation to come up from 5:30 to 7. On that night, any board members are certainly invited to come and attend. It should be an exciting evening. Parents follow their children's schedule, so they go to each of their classes for 15 minutes. And there'll be various presentations from PowerPoints and others to introduce the parents to the work their children are actually doing and have done, but also as it relates to the curriculum as a whole. So that for many who have been at this for several years, your minds are imprinted with what it means to be have an arts-infused education. But for many, that's a new thing. What does it really mean? And how does that actually manifest itself in the classroom? And so it should be a really exciting night. I encourage everybody to come at 5:30 to 7. There will be a reception afterwards to allow parents and teachers and others to have a relaxed environment to chat. It should be a good evening. And sort of as a separate note to that, we did have a visitor today, Steve Rosenberg of the